Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farm, the podcast. I'm your host, JC Young, and today's topic of discussion is this: how to get exactly what you want. So, guys, today's podcast is going to be more of a story of a situation that one of our close family friends is going through right now. She's been running a business here the past 3 or 4 years, and unfortunately, she's going through the closure of that business currently. And a lot of things happened that ultimately led to that closure there. And there's a lot of just things that can happen inside of the economic environment that we operate in, where there's so many variables at play here that it can sink any business, right? That's the same thing that happened to our family farm operation. I've seen that happen to dozens of other family farm operations. You most likely know somebody that built a business and tried to be successful, but there were certain external factors or variables that took place that ultimately wiped out their business. And that's what's kind of happening here as well. But anyways, I share that story with you to kind of set up the lesson here and kind of what I want to talk about today. All of us have this idea in our mind of what our business is going to be like, right? And we have this idea of the exact steps it's going to take for us to get to the end result. And we're so obsessed with the result in the beginning, which is a good thing, right? We need to be obsessed with the result, but eventually that transfers over to us being obsessed with the process as well. That was a huge lesson for me. So back in 2017, or actually 2018, I'd been 2 years into my entrepreneurial career. I was struggling massively at that time. We were not making any money. I was still trying to find my pathway. I was still trying to just figure out what the heck I was going to do with my life and how I could help the industry and just like where was my purpose, right? Anyways, we took advantage, moved down to southern Utah because I had a business opportunity down there, and I packed up and moved my entire family down there. Like, I was committed, and it was a huge move for us. We were packing up and moving away from Kansas and close to family and friends, and it was just a dramatic move for us, and it really strained me and Rachel in the beginning in our relationship. But looking back at it, everything fell apart there, just so you know. Came back with my tail tucked between my legs and feeling like an absolute failure as a husband, as a father, as a business owner, like just across the board there, just because things didn't work out. But looking back at that experience though, I had to go through it. Right. And the reason I share all this with you and how we're getting to the point of how to get exactly what you do want, because all of us in life, whether it's the other business owner that I was talking about, or me, or you, in order to know what we do want, God is first going to teach us what we don't want. And what do I mean by that? You are going to go through pain. You are going to go through lessons. You are going to go through hardships because you have to get some stripes, right? You have to get some cuts, some bruises, some scars, and some things and experiences that are going to teach you exactly what you don't want in this life, so that God can lead you to exactly what you do want, which is that end result there, that goal, that end destination, or wherever it is that you want to get to ultimately. But the pathway to get there, again, we have this idea in our mind that it's going to be an easy step-by-step process and everything's going to work out perfectly. And it never works out that way, because what you think you might want in the beginning is not really what you truly want. And God knows that, right? And so at the end of the day, you have to understand that in order to get what you do want, you have to be willing and have the courage to go through the pain and the pit and this valley of just darkness and trial and air and frustration and losing money and all these things that really build up. Man, it's a weight. I think back to my journey and like how much strain it put on our marriage, how much strain it put on our finances, how much strain it put on me mentally and the stories that I was running through my mind. Man, it's easy to get emotional thinking about that, because that part of the journey, it sucked. Like, it was terrible. And my heart goes out to, our friend and our family friend that's going through this process right now. But I actually sent her a message reminding her of this, that, hey, I get that, you feel like you maybe failed the past 3 or 4 years running the business and that everything's closing and stuff like that. But understand, now going forward, you have a better idea of exactly what it is that you do want. And also, too, you've built up so many skill sets over the past 4 years there, from going through the hardships, the trials, having to overcome challenge after challenge, having to persevere, especially going through like 2020 with this person's specific business. 2020 could have wrecked people, and it should have wrecked this business. But she ultimately got through it, which just talks about her level of perseverance. And we all have to have that, right? And in order to get what you do want, you have to have the courage to walk this journey first, right? And that's what's tough about anybody that steps out, and wanting to build their own business or build their own life and be in control of their future, have financial freedom, whatever that is for you. Once you jump off the ledge, you need to understand, like, you're going to go through the valley first. It doesn't mean you're not just going from jumping from peak to peak to peak. Maybe that'll come at some point in the future, but every time we start a new journey, there's a valley we have to walk through. There's a darkness that we have to walk through, and that is where the pain, the struggle, the challenge, and everything that you're going to face, that is God's way of building you into the person that He needs you to become to ultimately reach that end result there. Now, most people, they turn around. When they hit that first roadblock or that first challenge, they're scared to death and they turn around. And I'm no different. I was 3 years into just failing and struggling, trying to build my business and figure out what the heck I was going to do. And honestly, that drive back from Utah after what I felt like was the biggest failure of my life, that was the awakening that I needed. That was the massive lesson that I needed there. And what do you know? Everything started to happen after that. It's like I finally made it through the valley and proved to God that, hey, I'm committed to this and I want to make something happen here. Because just to be honest with you, if I wouldn't have launched Legacy Farmer after that, had everything, turn into what it is now, I was probably going to go back and get a job because I was tired of fighting. I was tired of living in this valley of darkness by myself and just, lesson after lesson and pain and struggle and stress. And it was just like beating up my body and my mind and my marriage and like just every aspect, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about if you're a business owner. But again, the point of this podcast is that, looking back at that journey, I had to go through that because it taught me so much about myself, but it taught me so much about what I don't want. God brought certain people into my life during that time that taught me really valuable lessons. Not good lessons, but lessons, nonetheless, of things to watch out for when you're working with people. And they were negative lessons, but so valuable for me because I just learned how people operate. I learned who I wanted in my life. I learned how I can trust certain people, what certain signs to look for. I learned at the end of the day, nobody was coming to save me, and that everything I wanted, I had to build. I could no longer rely on anybody else, and I had to have the courage to continue walking through that valley and that darkness there in order to get to where I wanted to go. So at the end of the day, my friends, I share all this with you because a lot of you right now are probably in a position where you're going through that valley, right? You're going through that darkness. Things look pretty bleak. You're not confident. You're struggling. You're trying to figure out why the hell do I keep going through these things? Like, why is it lesson after lesson and painful lesson after lesson, or losing money year after year, whatever that is. And just understand that this is a part of the journey and it's teaching you what you don't want. But also too, you extend your time in that valley of darkness the more you don't listen or pay attention to the signs, right? And that's very easy for us to do. That's very, very easy for us to do as individuals. But God is giving you signs, just like he's always giving me signs. And he was giving this other business owner signs that I'm talking about with our family friend, to where there was warning signs. Hey, you need to change course here. Consider doing this. I'm literally flashing it in front of you right now. I'm telling you exactly what you need to do. I know it's going to be uncomfortable to do it. Maybe it's a difficult conversation. Maybe it's taking a financial risk that you haven't done before. Who knows, right? There could be any number of things there, but God has given you signs, and the question is are you paying attention to them? Because if you're not, you're just extending your time in the valley, which is just prolonging your pain. And God doesn't want that for us. I don't feel that he does. He wants us to learn the lessons, and then that way he can get us to the next step in that journey there, and ultimately get us to that place of our desired result. But what's crazy though too, guys, is everything that I have now, I was praying for back in 2017 and 2018. And I tried to control the steps in the process to get here and wanted to control every side of it, and realizing that, man, that was a waste of time. Because God controls the steps. I can stay focused on the vision and the goal and where I want to go there, but I need to let God control how we're going to get there. And that was a huge lesson for me in letting go and letting God take control of that. Once you guys, there's multiple lessons in this podcast, but once you really just accept all of these things, and you see where you're at in the journey, you see the lessons that God has taught you, you also see what he's telling you to do next, you can move forward, right? You're no longer stressed or worried about it. You can just take the next steps forward, and you're give a shit, type of attitude there on what other people are going to think about you, everything like that. It's going to go away. That's exactly what happened to me coming back from Utah. I filmed the first authentic video in my life after that trip back, and everything took off from there because I had nothing to lose going forward. I was done trying to be somebody. I was done trying to, impress other people, whatever that may be there. I was just, for the first time, I was just being me. And everything changed since then, and for the better, right? And so anyways, share all this with you because if you're in that valley of darkness right now, understand that there is light up ahead, and that you are one of the rare human beings that has the courage to walk through the valley. So good for you on that point, and then keep going. Persevere, pay attention to signs, try to rise above your current situation, even if it sucks, and just pay attention to the lessons. Pay attention to the signs that are popping up there that God is trying to show you there. And man, you will be so much better off long term. And I look back at that, that valley of darkness that I had to go through, and I wouldn't change it because it changed everything about me. It's in those most trialing times or toughest times in our lives that the biggest growth happens, right? And so again, most people avoid it, but if you have the courage to walk through it, your life is going to be better for it going forward because you learned exactly what you don't want, which means you know now how to get exactly what you do want. And this is the journey that a majority of people are not willing to do. But if you are one of those people, congratulations, keep going forward. And I hope you found value inside of this podcast. So that concludes today's podcast, my friends. And most importantly, I hope you take action, from everything that you heard here. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next podcast.